Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. This quote by Margaret Mead fits nicely with Mariner's Trail. And the beauty of Mariner's Trail is not lost on anyone who has spent time on it. However, not all who visit the trail know its history. The idea for this trail came to life 25 years ago, in 1994. Here now is the story of just how it happened. Let's take a look back. A teacher at L.B. Clark Middle School in Two Rivers was listening to a few students complaining about having nowhere to inline skate. They said, "If we're on the sidewalk, we're told to leave. If we're on the street, we're told to get on the sidewalk." Their teacher simply said, "Why don't you do something about it?" When they asked like what, their teacher suggested finding a place that they could dedicate for recreational skating. They decided they would make a trail. In fact, later that day, a few of them were on the phone in the office trying to get donations. Their teacher told them they'd need a solid plan first. At the time, there was a $100,000 American Express geography competition. It was decided that these 7 girls would use that as a motivator to develop their idea. The girls worked on this project in lieu of the regular curriculum. The girls called themselves STI, or Sticking to It. In the process, they did research and wrote a proposal. They conducted their own meetings. They met with neighbors of the proposed trail area, the DNR, and they went before the Two Rivers City Council. They met with Bernie Bruchot of Woodland Dunes, who gave them wonderful advice. As it turns out, they did not win the competition, but they did win a $4,000 grant from CISA 7. They used this money to visit the Plank Road Trail in Sheboygan County and to hire Bay Lake Regional Planning to turn their ideas into something the city could use. They even went to Green Bay to visit with the people at Bay Lake. WLUK, Channel 11 in Green Bay, came and did a story about them, and Dennis Hurnett wrote about them often in the Herald Times Reporter. As it turned out, the old railroad trestle proved to be a thorn in their side. It was estimated that it would take $100,000 to remove this trestle, and the city would have to assume the liability. Originally, the plan the girls had was to have the trail on the old rail corridor in the woods, and then looping back along the lake. They abandoned the rail location and made the lake the primary route. You may be wondering how I know all of this? I was the teacher who had the opportunity to watch these 7 young women in action, learning how to be the change. Eventually, the girls moved on to high school, the group stopped meeting, and the ball was passed to the city of Two Rivers. The Two Rivers Bicycle Facilities Plan, with assistance from Bay Lake's Planning Commission, stated that a lakeside trail was a priority bicycle facility development route in 1995. The Two Rivers Waterfront Development Plan was put together with a citizen committee in 1999 and was adopted by the City Council in November of that year. In the summer of 1999, the Two Rivers City Manager's Office became aware of a Wisconsin Department of Transportation Transportation Enhancements Grant Program. Bill Handlos, the city engineer for the city of Manitowoc, was contacted and agreed to participate in a joint application. The application was submitted on July 9, 1999. On October 1st, the Wisconsin Department of Transportation, the cities of Two Rivers and Manitowoc, announced the award of grants totaling $707,520, which was 80% of the cost of 4 miles of trail and landscaping improvements. A 12-member community resource group was formed to guide the trail planning process. The committee selected Earth Tech of Sheboygan and Schreiber Anderson Associates of Madison to handle the design. The design proceeded through 2000 into 2001. The Two Rivers Rotary provided $25,000 for a scenic overlook. In November of 2001, 4 of the young women who proposed the trail idea had a chance to walk on the trail, at that time being referred to as the Memorial Drive Trail. In early 2002, the Citizen Committee asked community members to suggest names for the trail. 381 ideas were proposed, and the winning name, Mariners Trail, was suggested by Dr. Terry Gildner and approved by the committee. The trail was dedicated on June 1st of 2002. Since this predated FOMT, we don't have pictures, but we have photos from the rededication at the 10-year anniversary of the trail. In 2003, John Bruner was approached by Mayor Crawford of Manitowoc. The mayor was aware of John's work promoting the Maritime Bay Classic and asked John to start a friends group. An ad was placed in the paper, and the group met at the Manitowoc Public Library. Some of those original members are still active in FOMT. Shane Peterson, a Two Rivers native and graphic artist, designed the FOMT logo. Early on, FOMT was told there was no money in either city's budget for maintaining the trail. The group set some goals and decided to start building a nest egg for when the trail needed to be resurfaced. They created an event called the Trailathon. These events, over the 7 years, raised tens of thousands of dollars. The group benefited from generous sponsors and active community participation. The Trailathons included a run, walk, and an auction broadcast over the radio. John Bruner and Tim Strews of WOMT would describe items up for bid over the course of 3 hours. Volunteers would answer the phones, while others would keep the whiteboard updated with current bids. One year, there was even a scavenger hunt with trail trivia. FOMT started a brick program in 2004, and the first bricks were purchased for the 7 girls. This program was a fundraiser and a way to recognize people, including the annual Trailblazer Award that has been given out 11 times. Early on, FOMT was focused on safety. There were a couple waysides where the trail was routed through a parking area. FOMT was a driving force in promoting changes and worked to provide funding to the city to help defray costs. A section near west of the Lake Gardens was also redone with the help of FOMT. The group facilitated putting in almost 40 benches along the trail. Once a person made a donation, the bench was ordered. A concrete slab had to be poured in the selected location. Once the bench arrived, it was assembled, and 4 anchoring posts had to be drilled into the concrete. Installing benches was an acquired skill. The nameplate was ordered and attached. And then the bench was all set to enjoy a view of the lake. FOMT engaged in many brush cleanups to remove scruffy vegetation along the trail. This helped improve the view and keep the trail safe. FOMT sponsored trail cleanups and provided support for the many individuals and groups who came out to help. In addition, FOMT added a couple message boards at the Manitowoc trailhead and one on the Two Rivers side. Trash cans, bike racks, and a bike fix-it station dedicated to local bike enthusiast Rob Schutte were installed as amenities to the trail. The local garden club added a kaleidoscope. This was no small task. They also changed out the items under the kaleidoscope to match the season. A human sundial was added in the same location. When a trail map was needed, a joint project ensued with Friends of Raleigh Point Trail. Sponsors were contacted, and a beautiful and helpful map was distributed so that folks visiting our area would have accurate information and suggestions on where to go in our communities. One of the biggest undertakings was the flowerbed program. In 2008, the City of Two Rivers asked FOMT for $5,000 to take care of neglected flowerbeds. An idea was suggested that rather than give money, FOMT would sponsor volunteers to take care of the flowerbeds. There were thoughts that this was like Tom Sawyer soliciting others to paint the fence for him. As we are well aware, under Judy Corrado's leadership, this endeavor took off, now being maintained by the Garden Committee. The beauty that these flower beds give to the trail is unparalleled, and it's a sight to see as the seasons change along the lakeshore. In 2009 and 2010, the City of Two Rivers has passed a resolution of appreciation for individuals and groups responsible for planting and maintaining gardens along Mariners Trail. Oftentimes there is a waiting list as gardeners are eager to have a space of their own. The idea of a photo contest was suggested, and this resulted in our calendar, now in its 13th year. People could submit up to 5 photos, and winners were chosen for each month and for the cover. Each year, the judges had a difficult task of selecting 13 photos from close to 200 entries. The first sculpture along Mariners Trail was a relief sculpture of the Lake Michigan Basin. It was dedicated on September 2, 2005, as a memorial to former Two Rivers City Manager Hillary Rath. It was created by sculptor John Rawlings and was donated by the Rath family and the WPS Foundation. In November of 2010, Friends of Mariners Trail added its first sculpture to the trail, The Dancing Cranes by Jim Daney of Newton. This sculpture depicted 3 cranes dancing and provided some wonderful views with the lake as the backdrop. In May of 2011, Celestial Navigation was unveiled. This sculpture was created by Green Bay artist Carl Vanderheyden. The 6-foot-tall blue heron was made from recycled steel and donated by the David Hansen family. Mary Dryja sponsored a fish sculpture on the trail entitled Enchanting Myth. This sculpture was created by Two Rivers artist Brenda Bertard-Rickey. The sculpture was designed to be whimsical and contains copper wire, beads, and stone from local beaches. It was unveiled on October 17, 2011. 2 days later, on October 19, 2011, On Eagle's Wings was presented. This was another sculpture created by Carl Vanderheyden and was donated by Lynn Vancouvering as a tribute to her late husband. All of these artistic pieces provide a nice variety as people traverse the length of the trail. In 2010, Joe Metzen met with R.T. Skip Wallen and planned out the spirit of the rivers on a napkin. 8 years later, the sculpture became a reality. This bronze sculpture was dedicated on September 16, 2018, and celebrates the heritage of the indigenous people of this area. People use Mariners Trail to commute and for recreation. The trail, in its own right, is a destination. People continue to visit here and to move here for our wonderful trail with all of its beauty. Azarine Klein-Perry, one of the 7 students, was contacted in 2010. She reflected, "I've always been drawn toward a little challenge, and this was just the perfect opportunity for us younglings to work together to do something great for the community. Who would have thought that it all would have actually come to reality? The beauty of Mariner's Trail is not lost on anyone who has spent time on it." So for those of you following along, the 8th grade students had an idea, and 8 years later, the plan came to fruition. With the spirit of the rivers, it took 8 years as well. That must make some wonder, what ideas are out there now that will be a reality in 8 years? Years ago, City Manager Greg Buckley referred to Mariner's Trail as the Trail of Two Cities. Mariner's Trail links the two cities and connects the communities of Two Rivers and Manitowoc like nothing else has. And the good folks of Friends of Mariner's Trail are the stewards, the caretakers, and the proponents of this trail. Please join us. Get involved. Help maintain this jewel of the lakeshore for future generations.